Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Bloomington Rotary. I'm President Lauren Snyder. Thank you all for being here when you have the alternative to be outside in the beautiful sunshine, which I'm very thankful for. It is officially spring as of Wednesday, right? So spring is here. Wonderful. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, Steve, for greeting us on the way in, and then Sarah Laughlin, your last week as roundabout reporter. So thank you, Sarah, for capturing the minutes from our meeting today. I want to invite Sally up for our pledge and reflection. Sally.
Thank you. Please join me in the pledge. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. So, this may come as a surprise to you. I'm not going to reflect on baseball. This is opening week. Opening day is Thursday for my team. But in fact, I'm going to reflect on something also from a personal point of view, but on climate change. So, for the last few days, I've heard the place names of my youth in the news. Atchison and Leavenworth, Kansas, Weston, Missouri, which is my hometown, even Farley, which is population 400. Yesterday during Morning Edition on WFIU, I heard two people being interviewed from Weston whom I actually know. That's because my brother, who's a lifelong farmer, was used as a source for the NPR reporter. So our family farm sits on the Missouri River, some 8 miles south of St. Joe, Missouri. And over my lifetime, there have been a few significant floods. 1993 was the worst. But over the last dozen years, pretty much every year has seen high water. The current flood, as you probably know, is pretty bad. The Missouri River runs more than 2,400 miles from Montana to St. Louis. It was naturally wide and shallow, meandering across floodplains and providing a variety of habitat for wildlife. But of course, around the 1940s or so, the federal government decided that it would probably be wise to maintain the flow of the river. This is what happens with most major rivers, as you probably know. To control it so that it wouldn't change course. So that was achieved and regulated with a series of dams, reservoirs, and levees. The river is managed, as it always has been, by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. There are 8 congressionally authorized purposes that have to be managed by the Corps. Among them are flood control, water quality, recreation, preservation of species. No one priority, unfortunately, has a purpose has priority over another, so there's an incredible tension between all of these purposes. There is one person, he works in Omaha, who's in charge. His name is John Remus, and he makes those decisions that will dictate, as the New York Times said, the fate of millions. He says of the system, it was not designed to handle this. So since 2007 or so, we've had really recurrent flooding, and it seems like any kind of significant rain causes flood. It's been almost one flood after another, and they seem to be increasing with intensity. The river has changed from when I was a child. So for me, this is a stark and personal reminder that the reason Mother Nature is behaving this way is simple. It's climate change. We have more frequent extreme weather, and it's going to keep happening. My daughter is now working on our family farm, along with my brother and his son. And I've always thought how terrific, since our parents passed away, that my brother and I would be able to pass on the farm to our children. But over the last few weeks, I've been wondering, what is it going to look like 30 years from now? I'm not sure. So that's my reflection. I'm sorry, I don't have any positive way to end it. I just wanted to share that personal reflection on climate change with my fellow Rotarians. Thank you.
Thank you, Sally. Now I want to invite Martha up to introduce our guest.
So we'd like to welcome those of you who are visiting today. And when I call your name, please do stand so we can recognize and welcome you. We have, as a guest of the club, Lisa Colvin, who's in mortgage lending. Ann Brzezinski, guest of Stonebelt, who's with the YMCA. Jim Grandorf, guest of Liz Irwin at IU. And Brooke Groning, also guest of Liz Irwin with Solution Tree. We're glad to have you here. We hope you'll come back soon, and please talk with anyone here about if you have an interest in knowing more about Rotary. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Martha. I don't know what I did. We all alive. Okay. Deep breath. Okay, Rotary family. You may have seen in the HT, our very one and only Charlotte Zitlow, still doing her thing, and wrote a letter to the editor. She might be physically down or recovering, but she still certainly has mind and is very attuned in things, and her contributions continue to the HT. So check that out if you haven't already. Jim, thank you for pointing that out to me this morning. Also birthdays, Liz Irwin. Her birthday is on the 29th, so happy birthday, Liz. Coming up to you. Membership anniversaries, once again, always take these grain of salt. Bryce Bowe, 2 years. Hank Walter, 2 years. Dean Watson, 9 years. And this one is very hard to believe, but Jim Bright, 12 years. And it's only been 12 years, Jim. And look what you've done to change Rotary for us. So thank you. I hope if I'm a Rotarian for 50 years, I will have done what you've accomplished in 12 years. So thank you, Jim. Some quick announcements. Our 2019-2020 district grant applications, we're now accepting those. Ann just updated. Ann Connors has all the information, and I can reach out to me if you need something as well. I can get it for you as well. But so far, we only have one application, and they're due April 2nd. So any charitable nonprofit organizations that you think could benefit from a nice chunk of money, and what was it, $7,000 to $8,000 last year? Yeah, check out your email, or if you need a hard copy, we can get you a hard copy. But what an opportunity. I believe charitable organizations appreciate a $500 gift. What would a $7,000 grant do for a nonprofit organization in our community? I think it would make a significant impact. So consider that in all the organizations you're involved with. Our Rotary orientation, Rotary social, whatever we want to call it, fireside chat, we've actually scheduled that at Sarah Laughlin's house. She's going to be hosting out on her deck. Positive weather, give us that positive weather vibe, on May 14th from 5:30 to 7:30. And we want it to be a fairly free-flow event, but from about, I would say, 6 or so to 7, we're going to actually sit down and talk about just all of the facets of Rotary that we probably don't regularly enough cover in our meetings because we have so much going on. But we welcome everyone, but strongly encourage anybody that's been a new member in the past 12 to 18 months to come to that, because we haven't done one of those in a little bit of time. So I personally will come. I know Jim Bright's going to plan on coming, and obviously Sarah will be there. Unless you want to just give us the keys and we'll have a heck of a time. But that is May 14th, 5:30 to 7:30 at Sarah's house. Mark your calendars for that, please. Our resource fair for child and maternal health is coming up on May 18th after the Rotary Fireside and Orientation. Our Lunch Buddy program for third quarter ends this week. So if you haven't done that already, find your person, email them, call them, go to their office and try and meet them and get that in so we can get your attendance makeup and added there. March service opportunities, Sarah and Teachers Warehouse came through, and March 30th, that is a Saturday, we need volunteers from 9:30 to 12:30. If you would like to help out or can give an hour, reach out to Sarah Laughlin. She can note you for your volunteering and service. Finally, our Myanmar Water Project is formally funded, and we are now raising funds to get that. We need to recognize that March is Water and Sanitation Month. What better month for us to kick that project off than in March? It is Water and Sanitation Month from Rotary International, one of our focuses of service within Rotary International. Jean. Joy.
I just wanted to, Lauren, ask you to announce that in April our...
I think you're announcing it right now.
Okay, so in April we are going to have a bowling night.
Oh.
And so families invited and all that. So the date to be determined. Bowling.
Heated competition, correct?
Rotary bowling competition.
All right, so our next Rotary 505 is going to be what date again?
We don't have
To be determined, but it's going to be in April.
And probably a Thursday night, because that always works so well for everybody that's here.
Perfect. All right.
Make sure we get the right link so we all go to the same place this time, the same floor.
Yeah. Bumpers can be on, is that right? Okay, good. I'd appreciate that. All right. Jean, you still have the show with Happy Dollars.
And can I say I'm pitch hitting for Susie Graham, who is busy getting ready for the scholarship Ivy Tech reception tonight, of which she said 3 of the recipients are Rotary recipients as well.
Oh, great. Thank you. Anybody else? Yeah, Sally. Or coming up. Sally, start here. We'll work our way back.
Tennessee Williams' magnificent play, The Black Menagerie, is on stage by Cardinal Stage 2 more weekends. Please go, it's awesome. Support the theater.
Thank you. Lynn.
Cubs are looking good. But my husband's running for city council, and I'm really proud of him that all the skeletons in the closet are that he's
All right. Lynn, didn't the Cubs score 24 runs in a game recently? 24 runs. Wow.
On Saturday, Ashley ran the district speech competition. I was really lucky to be a judge. It was so inspiring. It was about leadership, service, and the forward test. That was just great. I really had to be a judge. And they gave $1,000 to the winner, $500 to number 2, and $250 to the third. So the winner will speak at the district.
Great, thank you. And yeah, let's recognize Ashley. Thanks for taking the lead there on that. I'm sorry I didn't reference it, Ashley. Thank you for your service on that. Is that Glenda? I think it's Glenda.
Last week I told you that my mother-in-law was turning 103. She did, and we had a party, and it was a very nice gathering of family and friends.
Oh, that's great. Anybody else? Jim?
Good morning, Rotary. One thing that's more important than my run for city council is on Sunday, my wife and I celebrate our 40th wedding anniversary. Therefore, I only have 30.
Oh, you 10. Wait, are we only 30 of the years happy? Is that what you're saying? Thank you, Jim. Thanks for your generosity and congratulations. That's great.
You said it, I did.
Yeah, Jim.
We're going to get the other $10 to keep politicians' homes.
Thank you, Jim. Hey, it's keep it in the name. Look, Jim, looking out for Jim. I like that. All right, thanks for sharing all your happy events in life and with family. Now I want to introduce our very own Leslie Green. Have her come up and introduce our program for the day. Leslie, I will hand it over to you.
Well, I'm really happy about today's program because it brings together 2 things that I really love. One is my job at Stonebell, and 2 is my relationship with this wonderful Rotary Club. So for a while, I wanted to bring you this program, which will update you on the money that was raised at a Rotary Toast, I believe the second one we had when we honored Ron Remack. And I won't steal a lot of the information that my 2 guests are going to speak to you about, because They'll tell you a little bit more of the specifics of that. But really, really happy to welcome Susan Russ, my esteemed colleague from Stone Belt. At Stone Belt, she's responsible for developing and implementing our educational curriculum agency-wide for adults. She oversees the day-to-day education programs in all of our region. That includes Bloomington, Bedford, and Columbus. She began her career in Stone Belt as an employment consultant way back in 1994 and has had several different positions within her tenure at the agency, currently serving as the Director of Lifelong Learning. Georgia Fry, also an esteemed colleague, is an associate professor in the Department of Kinesiology at the IU Bloomington School of Public Health and a fellow of the American College of Sports Medicine. She teaches graduate and undergraduate courses in adaptive physical education and physical activity. She is also the director of the Indiana University Adaptive Physical Education Program, which is a service learning opportunity that provides individualized movement instruction to children and youth with disabilities. Her research focuses on increasing physical activity and reducing sedentary behavior to improve health equity for people with disabilities across the lifespan, which means that after this is done, we're going to have a little exercise program. No, they're just going to speak, and maybe they'll inspire you to do your exercise on your own. So, Georgia and Susan.
Hi, I'm Susan. I passed my first step. I got up and I didn't fall, and I was a little nervous about that. I'm so glad to be here today to share with you the information about how meaningful the Rotary money has been to Stone Belt participants. And my partner here and I are going to kind of shift back and forth and talk to you about things, and hopefully our technology works like it's supposed to. So basically, we're going to talk about how the project got started. Many of you may know the information about that, and give you a timeline of how things proceeded. It surprises me how quickly we've done what we've done, and really it's a relatively short period of time. Of course, we'll want to brag about our accomplishments and the things that the folks that we're supporting in this program are accomplishing, and then talk a little bit more about how we hope to continue on even beyond the monies that were donated from the Rotary and from the gift from Ron Remack. So just to get us started, I actually took this picture, and I'm a terrible photographer, and I was so excited that I took a good picture. You could tell he's in action. He is at the Y, and this is someone that has struggled really to be socially appropriate sometimes, and he is just a Y member down there doing his thing. So the program that we started, we called it the Upstart program, and none of us could really remember exactly what that was. We brainstormed that a little bit with the Y, and I think maybe Georgia might not have been with us at that point. But we know that it had to do with getting people physical activity and get going down at the YMCA. So Stone Belt participants select that they want to go and join the Y activities. Stone Belt has a wonderful relationship with the Y, and they allow us to take all of our participants to the Y for a very minimal price. So we cover the membership cost, and we help people get down there. And sometimes that's a big old barrier to people being fit and participating in things, not just fitness things, but participating in general. So we cover that barrier. And we started off, and we continue to have quite a bit of individualized support. And if any of you have started a fitness routine, you probably know that it's really helpful to have somebody train you and show you what to do and how to do it until you get comfortable and you get into a routine. So the next thing we had to do, and I'm probably jumping into my next slide having to do with the timeline, is we had to hire someone who knew what they were doing, because that wasn't me. And I'll explain a little bit more about that. So the monies that were designated by Ron Remack have gone to start us off and have gotten us to a really good place a couple years after the monies were provided. And in March of that first year, which I believe was 2017, yep, says so right at the top there on that slide, we were selected by the Y to be the partner. And I'm going to explain a little bit more about that, I think, in the next slide. And I'm reading the slides because I haven't exactly. So anyway, we got the Y involved. Nancy Parker, who's no longer there, she's retired, was really pivotal in helping us getting things going and to help us figure out how those monies should be used at the Y. Then we were able to bring Georgia into the mixture and help us to figure out how can we not only take the monies that were designated from the Rotary, but keep things moving along so that at the end of those monies we wouldn't go, oops, now how are we going to do this? So she's going to talk a little bit more about that as well. And the award that we went for, we actually received, and she'll talk to you a little bit more about that. And then we hired our fitness person, director, coordinator, specialist, guru, Anne, who is here with us today as Leslie's guest. And it was just, it was one of those things where the sky opened up and she fell into our lap. So, feels like these slides might be a little bit out of order or something, but we began, first of all, having a time with the Y. They called, it was one of those mysterious phone calls where the executive director at the Y called and asked a colleague of mine and I to come and talk to them. And we were a little nervous about that. What does that mean? And what could be going on? Because I am the contact. You know, we have participants at the Y all the time, and I am the contact if something goes awry. And so I was a little nervous about it. But lo and behold, it was really kind of an interview because the Rotary and Ron had designated some funds that were intended to support people with disabilities in having fitness opportunities, however that turned out. And I don't think there was any special designation as to how that was going to happen. So we quickly realized that we were sort of being interviewed because there are other providers of services to people with disabilities in this community, but they were hoping to work with just one. So we were selected, and we were so grateful for that opportunity. And then the process of how are we going to figure out what's the best way to be the most effective and efficient in utilizing this money. So lots and lots of conversation and meetings and time spent brainstorming until we came to the realization that we needed someone who had the expertise that Stone Belt had always been lacking in helping people become involved in their own fitness and being able to carry that forward on their own in a way that our staff weren't able to support. They just didn't have that expertise. So we started off with about 15 people who were going here and there from 1 to 5 days a week, and we started providing them with strength training, stationary, aerobic activities, aka the machines. Those were George's words. I didn't know. And some of the yoga classes. We also had Anne, as she was getting to know folks and taking them to the Y, she also began implementing and supporting people at our facility because that's where, you know, the largest population was. And so she got to know people there. She started teaching the staff who supported folks in our day services how to implement fitness and how to make it fun and how to encourage people and how to start where someone is and build from there and get to the place where they want to get. So we continue with all of those things happening, and we had, prior to this project, people who would go to the Y. And it used to make me crazy because I'd go and I'd often see them sitting in the lobby drinking coffee, and the staff would say, well, they just didn't want to. They didn't want to do what they were asked to do, and so they just wanted to hang in the lobby. But now the participants, and I'm going to have a wonderful opportunity here shortly to explains how some of the people that we support are being so super successful. And now people go to the Y. They have a routine. Anne has started and helped people where they were and how to help them get gradually to the place they needed or wanted it to be. And you don't see people just hanging out in the lobby drinking coffee. You see people having fun in Y classes and walking the track and using the equipment. And I think one of the things that really was the most meaningful for me, and Georgia was my buddy in thinking about this, is we didn't necessarily need or want folks to have programs that were just for them because they had a disability. The Y is beautiful and it has wonderful opportunities, and so what we've done is had somebody like Anne who supported folks in getting acclimated into the things that the Y already offers. And they learned the routines, they learned what was expected of them, and now they just go and they do, and they're just one of the members at the Y, which is totally cool. And I get to talk more about that in just a minute.
And just to kind of, I'll back up in the timeline a little bit and identify what my role really was in this project. Nancy Parker and I had been familiar for quite a while, and I actually had done past work with Stone Belt in various capacities, but they mentioned this opportunity and they really wanted to make it sustainable and effective in addressing the outcomes that they had identified. And one of those was to increase adherence and participation at the Y and also to improve physical activity levels in the population segment. And I'm a very passionate physical activity researcher to promote, as a preventative health behavior, we now know that it's one of the primary preventative health behaviors, especially to prevent cardiovascular risk. And the population of people with disabilities in general, and particularly people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, is that they tend to be more overweight, obese, less physically active, and very marginalized in the health industry. So they are probably the most underrepresented population on the planet, and people with disabilities in general. So I am also very passionate about ensuring that they have opportunities that everybody else has to be active and engage in preventative health. So with that, Nancy asked me to come in, and I was very excited. I said, this is wonderful. And of course, I'm a researcher, so I was like, how do we assess this? How do we make sure that this is going to be something that is an evidence-based best practice? And so we set off to identify ways to ensure that. And then we had an opportunity through the Indiana University Translation Research Institute for what's called Trailblazer Award. And it was the perfect mechanism for us to collaborate because they wanted university community partnerships. And so that couldn't have come at a better time. It was very serendipitous. So we applied for that, and again, because no one works with people with disabilities usually. It was an unusual proposal. They liked it. We were funded about $25,000, and that money split between the university and the agency. And so Stone Belt had money for personnel and equipment. And the money I use is to support graduate students to assist with the research project and pay for some of the research expenses. So we are ongoing with that because what happened was Stone Belt took away all the commonly known barriers. They took away the transportation barrier and the financial barrier and also the instructional barrier that usually prohibits people with disabilities from participating. But we still wanted to expand participation. So we've taken a little step back in our initial proposal, and we're still ongoing in interviewing staff and consumers about what is it that's preventing them from participating in this program. And or what is facilitating their participation in the program. So that's where we're at right now with the research. And I know that's nobody's interested in the research. Everybody wants to hear the success stories. So let's go on with that. All right.
So we had people who were had never gone to the Y have an opportunity to go to the Y with someone who really knew how to build a routine, really knew how to show people things and get them going in the right direction, how to make it fun. And I think that was something that we talked a lot about in the early stages. Is fitness should be fun. It has to be fun. Who wants to go and do something that they don't want to do? So we played around with who we selected. We had some people who had never been to the Y that said, yes, pick me, and we had some that we knew really needed to go to the Y, and so we tried to figure out how could we coerce them a little bit to get them down there to see. Motivate, thank you. To get folks who really needed to go and make it fun. And so we had Anne, who started all that off with us. She was somebody who had been with Ys all over the country and had all this experience that Nancy Parker and I couldn't believe dropped into our lap to be able to facilitate this program. And so the ladies that we have on the pictures right now are in the seated yoga class. And when I took those pictures, again, I am a terrible photographer, and I was really proud that I was able to get some good pictures of them in action. There are, and I wasn't allowed to take pictures of anyone other than the folks that I was there to visit, but there was a whole circle of people in the yoga room that were all there doing yoga and listening to the music, and I kind of did it myself or in between taking pictures. The gal on the right, she had never been to the Y before, and before the class started, she was dancing around in the room and repeatedly looking at me saying, I love the yoga class, I love the yoga class, and she was dancing and twirling and really excited about being there. And the person on the left there also had not been a Y participant, and as you can see, the person who is standing or sitting next to her is another person who does work like Anne, and she is a graduate student from Georgia's program. So, and she is the second graduate student that we have utilized with this, and it's been a wonderful feeder because you have to have people with that expertise. And so that is Brittany, who is showing Crystal, kind of whispering in her ear to help her do a little hand-over-hand support so that she's doing the yoga poses and the things that the rest of the class is doing. Jessica on the right, she has had that support already and is very independent. As a matter of fact, Jessica could just go to the yoga class. She knows where to go. She can just get out of the car, head in, and she's on her own. I watched her. She knows the movements. She followed the teacher, and it was a wonderful thing to see. I really enjoyed taking these pictures. Oops. Way to go, Susan. There we go. Oops. All right. That's you, isn't it?
Okay. And so one of the other things that was generated from the Rotary monies were the impetus for all of this. So is the partnership that was developed between Stone Belt and the IU School of Public Health. We have in my department a master's degree in public health with a focus on physical activity. And so our students, they're being trained to promote physical activity and reduce sedentary behavior in various agencies across the country. And I wanted people with disabilities to be included in that. And so the monies that we have help fund those student positions. So they actually are getting hands-on experience working with this population segment. And we have that community university partnership in funding students to actually provide a service. So it's a really wonderful win-win situation, and that's something that we're really hoping to sustain over the long run. And then I've already mentioned the research component, and I won't restate that. And so in our future plans, one, we want to increase attendance and program participation, because what we've done thus far is really pilot work, getting the bugs out, again, how are we going to motivate people, resources that we need. But we already have a lot of people who are regularly attending and benefiting and are going to be engaged in lifelong activity. And that is a huge gift. Again, started with Rotary monies. We are also talking about developing a worksite activity program for Stone Belt clients. For those for whom transportation multiple times a day is maybe challenging, and if we can identify some things for people to do at the Stone Belt campus, and also to facilitate more movement in the day for Stone Belt staff. So that's something else that we're brainstorming about and very excited about, because if that happens, it would be the first program of its kind that I know of in the country that addresses worksite wellness in people who provide services to people with disabilities and the people with disabilities themselves. So it'd be a really unique program. And then we want to continue the collaboration between IU, Department of Kinesiology, the YMCA, and Stone Belt. And then to finish up, we just had several acknowledgments, and I hope I didn't forget anybody, because I sat and thought about this for a long time. But of course, Ron Remack for designating Stone Belt and the YMCA, or I should say the YMCA, in his donation, the Rotary Club for having the donation, the YMCA for its work, Nancy Parker, Ann Bruzy again, who is she's like a unicorn, so we're lucky to have found her. Jackie Beasy, and then you saw a picture of Brittany, who are two MPHPA students who have thus far worked on the project, and again, we see this continuing. My colleagues in the School of Public Health, Dr. Cothran and Dr. Barnes, who have helped with the research, of course, the Stone Belt staff, the IU Translational Institute, and the Department of Kinesiology. And my motto for my adapted program is movement is for everybody. So, get that? We'll play on words, body, right? And so, so anyway, that ends our presentation, and thank you for your attention.
Anybody have questions? Yeah, Jim.
May I come up and join you for just a second? Yeah, first of all, Georgia and Susan, thanks for what you do. I'm a regular at the YMCA these days, and I frequently see those clients there, and I can attest firsthand what a powerful thing it is. Just want to make sure that everybody understands where this money, the Rotary money, comes from. In 2015, the 3 local Rotary clubs came together, borrowed an idea from the Rotary Club of New Albany to start the Bloomington Rotary Toast. And in the first year, our honoree was Dr. Larry Rink, and from the get-go, we decided that half the money raised from the toast would go to the honoree's cause, and the other half would be divided equally between the 3 clubs. And that's what's happened in 2015, 16, 17, 18, and now we've got an honoree for 2019. I don't think we've talked about that here yet. I'm looking at Sarah. Sarah, is it okay to talk about it? Okay. So, okay. In 2015, Larry Rink was the honoree, and half of the money went to Boys and Girls Clubs. In 2016, the recipient was Ron Remack, and half of the money went to YMCA and Stone Belt. In 2017, the recipient was Becky Rizmalos, and half of the money went to Friends of the Library. And most recently, last November 2018, the recipients were Connie and Steve Ferguson, and half of the money went to fund a scholarship fund at Ivy Tech. So, for 2019, the recipient will be, and this will be on November 1st of this year, the recipient will be Kerry Curry. And half of the money, his half of the money has been designated to go to the Curry Fund at the Community Foundation of Bloomington and Monroe County to fund the many, many, many acts of philanthropy that the Curry family promote here in Bloomington and in Monroe County. Good news, bad news, they're the same. We have outgrown Alumni Hall. I know many of you have wanted to go, you waited too long, you were shut out. And this year, we're going to a new location, very familiar to Lynn Schwartzberg over here, and that's Woolery Mill. So again, that'll be Friday, November 1st. I understand that Jody Hoagland is accepting reservations, and I think probably the best way to handle it would be to put it in roundabout. the information on how you can make sure at this early date that you can have a seat for the Friday, November 1st, Bloomington Rotary Toast. First ever at Woolery Mill, our 5th annual already. By the way, I understand that through your participation in these Rotary Toasts, we have generated almost $200,000 for area charities, with half going again to the charities of the recipients, and with the other half going to our club and the other 2 clubs. So I just wanted to make sure, especially for some of our newer members, that you and guests, that you know how that works. So again, thank you so much, both of you, for all you do, and to you and your team. Leslie, it's a magnificent program, and it's one of those things that makes me extra proud to be a Rotarian. Thank you very much.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you guys so much for being here this afternoon.
Thanks for having us.
Appreciate it. Got everything? Thank you, Susan and Georgia, and in recognition of you guys being here and being in our program for the day, we'll be making a contribution for you being here today and speaking to the Community Kitchen. That's our quarterly organization that we're recognizing, so we'll be sending a contribution to that organization, thanking you for being here today. A few final announcements. The Community Kitchen receiving our quarterly speaker recognition. This is the last one. So next week at our club assembly, we're going to have the hat is going to be back. So all the charitable organizations that you put into the hat, we will draw one out live, and that will list, or that will be the organization receiving our quarterly speaker recognition contribution for the 4th quarter of my Rotary year, which is unbelievable that we're almost there. Aaron, get ready. And as I mentioned, we will be having our club assembly, and it will be at St. Mark's Church. So please make note of that. We will not be here. So if you come and walk to the door, like I do sometimes, to be directed to the appropriate room within the IMU, you're not going to be going to the right spot. So make sure you mark it on your calendar, St. Mark's Church, for next week. At the club assembly, Leslie will be giving us a foundation update. And then also we will have some special entertainment from one of our very own on the piano. So that should be a lovely treat for us, and some other basic announcements and updates for our Rotary year. So please join us next week for that. Anything else? Thought for the week is one, March Madness, right? So I had to go to a coach or a famed person in the March Madness world. But the quote is, if you laugh, you think, and you cry, that's a full day. That's a heck of a day. You do that for 7 days a week, and you're going to have something special. And that came from the late Jimmy Valvano, or also known as Jimmy V, also known as Don't Give Up, Don't Ever Give Up. He was the head coach at NC State when they won the national championship, and ultimately succumbed to cancer, and now has, after his passing, has raised millions, if not billions of dollars for cancer research through the Jimmy V Foundation. So, if you laugh, if you think, and you cry, that's a full day. That's a heck of a day. You do that 7 days a week, and you're going to have something special from Jimmy V. So, please rise and join me in the 4-way test, +1 of the things we think, say, or do. First, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? Fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned? And fifth, is it fun? Have a great afternoon, guys.